morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First, I would like to thank Ms. Anita White Carson and Ms. Deborah Smith for asking me to be the speaker at the Unity Breakfast. To committee organizers, thank you as well. To distinguished guests, family members, friends, leaders, teachers, educators, I say welcome and thank you for being here. Dr. King once said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." He goes on to say, "The true neighbor will risk his position, his prestige, and even his life for the welfare of others." Now, many of you may be thinking, why would I pick this quote? What is the significance of this quote out of the many that Dr. King has left us with? Well, in my opinion, Dr. King is telling us what he sees as what a true man is, what he stood for, and what we as a society should stand for as well. I feel as though Dr. King's words are still true today. We are in times of challenge when it comes to many things. But the one that affects me the most is the state of education. As time progresses, it seems as though we have become stagnant. We face issues of higher dropout rates and lower college enrollment. Now, it may be easy to just ignore these facts and push them aside. But Dr. King also said, our lives begin to end the moment we become silent about things that matter.
There you go.
All right.
It is scary how dangerous silence can be. When will we begin to speak up? What are we going to do to solve these problems? How are we going to prevent these numbers from getting worse? As far as we have progressed, clearly we can see there is still work to be done. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15, 1929, to Reverend Martin Luther King Sr. and Alberta Williams King. The second of three siblings, it seems as though Dr. King did what most middle siblings do, find a way to stand out. Just ask my little brother, the middle child in my family. In this case, however, Dr. King not only stood out in his family, but he stood out to thousands. And he stood for thousands in a time where they needed a strong leader, a Moses of their time. Like Moses, Dr. King was called to deliver his people out from under the bondage of physical and mental oppression placed on them by others. The similarities don't stop there. Dr. King once said, "I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people, we will get to the promised land." Rather than having selfish thoughts and desires, their focus was getting their people to a better land, a better place, a place of freedom. Some of you may think today that we are living in our land of milk and honey. We now have a black president in his second term. We have equal education opportunities for our kids, and we are no longer made to sit in the back of buses. In my opinion, I do believe that we are closer to reaching that true promised land. But I honestly wonder, would Dr. King agree, or would he believe there is still work to be done? Are we enjoying our land of milk and honey? Or is there still work to be done? Are we living out the true vision of Dr. King? Or is there still work to be done? I am a strong believer that comfort and complacency are dangerous attitudes that can lead to failure and regression. So yes, we have come a long way, but I believe there is still work to be done. As a teacher, now you know, I have to let you know the kind of student Dr. King was. He graduated from high school at the age of 15. His post-secondary education began at Morehouse College, where he earned a sociology degree. He then attended the Cruiser Theological Seminary in Pennsylvania. There he thrived as a student, graduated as valedictorian of his class in 1951. Dr. King began his doctoral studies at Boston University and received his PhD in 1955 at the age of 25. We often only speak of King's work as a civil rights activist, but he made sure to take the necessary steps, the necessary educational steps to become what he was destined to be. Dr. King once said, "Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity."
Wow.
It seems as though today's generation places less and less emphasis on the importance of education. Too many times I've asked students, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And the overwhelming response is, "I want to be a ball player." Or, "I want to be a rapper, yo." Then I ask them why. They reply, "Because you don't have to go to school to do that." Or, "I don't have to be smart." What happened to our kids wanting to be at the top of the class? What happened to our kids fighting to be the best? It seems as though so many people are fighting for space at the bottom and leaving the top empty. What happened to the days of kids wanting to be like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and other greats of the past? Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing bad about wanting to be an athlete or an entertainer. But I feel as though these dreams are becoming more and more prevalent in a time where we need our Moses. We need our Rosa Parks. We need our Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So, as we get closer to celebrating another Martin Luther King Day, I wonder how many students can tell you facts about Dr. King other than, isn't it that guy that gave that speech about a dream? How many students today can tell you what the significance of the civil rights movement is? Or do they know anything about the Little Rock Nine? A group of students who were the first African American students to attend a segregated high school, Little Rock Central High School. Have they ever heard of Etta James, Jesse Owens, Dorothy Dandridge? But I bet many of our students can quote lines from reality shows like The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Love and Hip Hop, or Here Comes Honey Boo Boo. Or they know all the lyrics to these new dance songs. And how many of our young male students can list off LeBron James' basketball statistics? Now, please understand that I love music, and I can wobble with the best. Miss Agnes Smith, you gave me a scholarship ball last year? I can get that. And I love a good reality show every now and then. But at the end of the day, I realize that without the greats of the past, like Etta James, Beyonce couldn't be the international superstar she is today. Without pioneers like Jesse Owens, Usain Bolt would not be the fastest man in the world. Without Dorothy Dandridge, there could be no Halle Berry, or even the very rich Miss Nene Leakes. And without true leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who knows how much longer it would have been before we had our first African-American president. It seems as though we have allowed this generation to become complacent through ignorance. It is all our jobs as educators to teach our kids about where they come from. Now, some of you may say, I'm not a teacher, Mr. Monell. That's your job. To you, I say, look within. Look within yourself and see that you are an educator. You see, we are all teachers. We are all mentors. We are all life coaches. Whether you realize it or not, every grandparent, father, mother, aunt, uncle, brother, sister, cousin, or friend in this room today, you can serve as a role model to our youth. The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Are we teaching the next generation to think critically? Or are we allowing them to believe that the glitz and glamour of fame can come without real struggle and sacrifice? I say again, there is still work to be done. Now, I ask, are we becoming comfortable as a people? If you have to think about that question, the answer is yes. Comfort and complacency will get you nothing but failure and regression. We have to make sure we keep fighting so the work of our great predecessors was not done in vain. Now, in my years as an educator, I have been in a constant fight to get my students to realize their true potential. So often, students connect being smart with being lame, dorky, or whack. And they see being lazy as cool, popular, and the only way to have swag. It's almost like students think smart people only wear glasses, wear suspenders, and resemble Steve Urkel. Or maybe me. Well, I don't know about you, but I like Steve Urkel. It was really determined, extremely smart, and didn't he get Laura in the end? I'm just saying. So how have we gotten to the point where children care less and less about school and more about popularity? How have we gotten to the point where homework is barely being done at home, but children come to school wearing the latest trends and using cell phones better than mine? How is it that test scores continue to drop and graduation rates decline, but our jails stay filled to capacity? I challenge all the adults in this room to ask yourself, how did I let this happen? Look around. How did we let this happen? When did we drop the ball? You see, children are like sponges. They only absorb what they see and hear. As adults, we have to make sure our children are exposed to positive things. As adults, we have to make sure our children know what is right. As adults, we have to take our minds back to the days of segregation. Now, some of you are probably thinking, he is too young to know anything about segregation. However, I've had many talks with my parents, grandparents, mentors, and leaders who felt the need to tell me about how times have changed. I have been told stories of parents teaching their children how to read the best they could with the education they had under a candlelight or having to use the moonlight. I have been told stories of children walking to school with a heavy desire in their heart for knowledge and being made to learn from books with missing pages, knowing that if they were caught, they would be beaten or punished. After making it through all of that, we now have students coming to school with no textbooks, no supplies, no homework, and seemingly not a care in the world when it comes to education. It seems as though, since the days of segregation are now over, and because blacks can walk on the same side of the street and drink from the same water fountain, we take this as a sign of, yes, we've made it. But if you ask me, we should be thinking, yes, we have progressed,
Yes.
but there is still work to be done.
Monell.
On August 28, 1963, Dr. King delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., and in front of about 250,000 people. In this speech, Dr. King lets us know his dream and goal. And to his words, his great words, I humbly add my own. I have a dream that one day we will truly be able to live, because simply existing was never anyone's dream. Has Dr. King's dream become a reality? Or are they still just a vision of a great civil rights activist? Have we fought to live the words and beliefs of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? Earlier that same year, Dr. King gave another speech in Detroit, Michigan. In it, he said, if a man has not discovered something he will die for, he isn't fit to live. To everyone in this room, I say, we need to make sure we are truly living and stop just existing. Just because you are breathing does not mean you're living. There are many people who go through the day breathing, but they do nothing to make themselves better or others better. In my opinion, those people simply exist. Well, I was not placed on this earth to exist. I was put here to live.
How about that?
Help change lives.
Yeah.
And to leave a legacy. And to everyone in this room here today, I say, we all need to believe that if we are to have any hope of continuing towards making Dr. King's dream a lasting reality. Now, I guess what they say is true, and everything comes full circle. Years ago, as a middle school student, I had to write a research paper on a great historical figure. You can guess who I picked. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Seeing how I am now an English teacher, I am very happy to say that I made an A on that paper. It was very interesting to see that even as a child, I truly looked up to Dr. King. Now, years later, having the honor to speak about him just shows how you never know how each and every day prepares you for your future. As I stand here today, a proud educator, I want to recite some of the words from my paper, written by a humble middle school student. Without people like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who knows where I would be or what I would be doing? His fight allows me to not only have friends of my own race, but friends of all races. Because of people like him, I look forward to growing up and seeing if I can make my dreams come true. Now, like that middle school student said, without Dr. King, who knows where I would be? Who knows where you would be? Who knows where this country would be? While in college, I became a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and learned that Dr. King is an Alpha as well. So not only is he a role model to me, but he is also my brother. My goal is not to use the works of my brother and those who work diligently with him as a way to just get by, but rather as motivation to be better, to do better, and to truly live. I thank God for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his nonviolent ways. I thank God for Rosa Parks and her not getting up out of that seat. I thank God for the Little Rock Nine, including Dr. Melvin Beals, who I had the honor of meeting and speaking with last November at a conference. I thank God for Barack Obama for helping our kids truly believe that I can be president one day. I thank God for all those who fought before me and for those who still fight today. Because of them all, I do not have to look at the color of my skin as a handicap or a downfall, but as the example of the greatness I am truly capable of. You cannot know your future without knowing your past.
All right. All right.
I say that again. You cannot know your future without knowing your past. And with a past rooted in such perseverance, such strength, and such faith, the sky is the limit for the present and future generations. So in the words of my great brother, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I say, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. To that, I humbly say, free physically. It is up to each and every one of us to make sure we stay free of all mental bondage. Because of the works of all the greats before me, I can stand here today and speak to you as a high school graduate, as a two-time college graduate, and as the current teacher of the year for Greene County School System. As a child, I simply had a dream of being a good teacher. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I would receive the honor of being Teacher of the Year. But with hard work, dedication, and faith, you can surpass even your wildest dreams. I was able to turn my dream into a truly amazing reality. We have to make sure the same thing happens to the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King, but more importantly, to the dreams of the youth of today. No longer can we allow ourselves to just settle or be complacent. We must live and be done with simply existing. I refuse to let my light dim or fade. I refuse to let the light of my ancestors dim or fade. I refuse to let the dream of Dr. King dim or fade. Everyone, please repeat after me. I refuse to let my light or the light of the youth dim or fade. I refuse
I refuse
to simply exist.
to simply exist.
Rather, I choose
Rather, I choose
to live.
to live.
I realize
I realize
there is still work to be done.
still work to be done.
Thank you.
After that inspiring message this morning, what can one say? The only thing that comes to mind is the words of Johnny Gill. My, my, my. This young man understands the secret of your success is hidden in your daily routine. In his words, if you teach, they may learn. If you care, they will change. In my words, what you respect, you will attract. I think it is safe to say that Mr. Monell, Teacher of the Year, is walking in his appointed assignment. And I thank God that Greene County has a young educator here that is truly dedicated to our students. I want you to know that we will be remembered for either one or the other. The problems we solved or the problems we caused. What you tolerate, you will not change. What you tolerate, you will not change. So it seems to me that Mr. Monell is saying that he will no longer tolerate our children coming unprepared and not working towards being prepared for the future. Our hats are off to you, sir. Now I'm going to deviate from the program just for a second.